The mysterious warship, the stars shone bright in the vastness of space. But something was different today. A small alien fleet led by the massive flagship Serapos was gliding through the empty blackness of space. The fleet, part of the expansive Zarth Empire, was on a mission to explore new territories. The Zarth Empire had conquered many planets, and their technology was unmatched. They were the masters of the stars, feared by all whom knew them. The fleet traveled in silence, the hum of their engines the only sound on the flagship. Commander Vexer stood in the control room gazing out at the endless expanse of space. His mind was focused, his sharp eyes scanning the view. His mission was simple: explore, gather data, and return to report. But as the fleet moved deeper into unexplored space, something caught his attention. "Commander Vexer," said a voice behind him. It was Captain Zura, his second in command. She sounded uneasy. "There's something ahead. It's a ship, but it's not on any of our maps." Vexer brow furrowed. In all the years of Zarth expansion, they had never encountered anything uncharted. The Zarth Empire controlled the galaxy, and nothing should have been out of place. "What kind of ship?" he asked, turning to face her. Zura didn't have an immediate answer. "It's large, but it's unlike anything we've seen before. The readings are strange." Vexer curiosity was piqued. "What do you mean strange?" "It's ancient," Zura said hesitantly. "The ship is drifting in the void. There are no signs of life aboard. It doesn't appear to be active." The commander nodded. "Prepare to make a scan. Let's find out what we're dealing with." The crew of Rose sprang into action, their movements quick and efficient. A powerful scan beam shot out from the flagship, aimed at the mysterious vessel. The image of the ship appeared on the screens before them, an enormous dark warship covered in layers of dust and debris. Its design was sleek yet ancient. Long, sharp edges adorned its frame and massive cannons lined its sides. But it wasn't just the appearance that was strange, it was the readings. The scan results made no sense. Zura stepped forward, her eyes glued to the screen. "The materials, they're unlike anything we've ever encountered. And the weapon systems, they're beyond our technology." Vexer stared at the screen, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. "That ship, it doesn't belong here. It's from another time." "What should we do, Commander?" Captain Zura asked, her voice tense. She knew that this could be a major discovery or a trap. Vexer took a deep breath. "We don't know what we're dealing with yet. Prepare for a closer scan. I want every detail. We need to understand what kind of technology the ship has." For the next few minutes, the crew focused on the mysterious ship. The data flowing into the control room was overwhelming. The ship's technology was old yet disturbingly powerful. The materials used to construct it were not from any known species in the galaxy. It was like the ship was from a different era entirely, an era long forgotten. As Vexer studied the data, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. What had happened to this ship? Where had it come from? And more importantly, why was it still drifting in deep space, abandoned and alone? He glanced over at Captain Zura. "What if this ship isn't abandoned? What if it's waiting for something?" Zero raised an eyebrow, unsure what to make of his words. "Waiting for what, Commander?" Vexer didn't have an answer, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this ship than met the eye. It was too perfectly placed, too carefully hidden in the vastness of space. His instincts told him that this was no ordinary discovery. Whatever this warship was, it wasn't simply drifting, it was waiting. The ship's mysterious aura surrounded them, making every crew member feel the tension in the air. Vex's mind raced as he considered their next move. This was a moment of opportunity, but it was also a moment of danger. If the warship was truly as advanced as the data suggested, it could pose a serious threat, or it could be a powerful ally. But before they could come to any conclusions, something unexpected happened. The ship, which had been motionless, began to shift slowly. A faint light flickered from its surface, and a low hum echoed through space. The warship seemed to come to life. "What's happening?" Zira asked, her voice rising in alarm. "Is it activating?" Vexer's heart skipped a beat. "Prepare for anything. This is no coincidence." The warship's energy systems were coming online, and the Zarf fleet was caught in its mysterious wake. The quiet of deep space had just been shattered, and they had no idea what was about to happen. A startling discovery. The strange hum coming from the mysterious warship grew louder, filling the control room of Taros with an eerie vibration. Commander Vexer stood frozen, his eyes fixed on the screen. The once dormant ship was not alive, its lights flickering on one by one, like an ancient beast awakening from a long slumber. "We've never seen anything like this, Captain," Captain Zura said, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. "The energy readings are off the charts. It's as if the ship is powering up." Vexor heart raced. He had seen many things in his years of service to the Zarth Empire, but nothing like this. This warship wasn't just a relic, it was a weapon, and it was preparing to activate its systems. "Is it sending a signal?" Vexor asked Zura. "Quickly check the communication system. No, it's not responding to any of our attempts to hail it, but it's definitely reacting to us." The ship's once tow surface now shimmered with strange glowing lines, patterns that seemed to shift and change as if they were alive. It was as if the warship itself was studying them, analyzing the alien fleet from its deep slumber. Vexor mind raced. He knew the Zarth Empire had conquered many civilizations, but this warship was unlike anything they had ever faced. The technology was ancient yet clearly powerful. It wasn't just a forgotten relic, it was an advanced weapon. And it was now awake. "Captain, what's the status of the scan?" Vexor asked, his voice sharp with urgency. "The scan is complete," Commander Zura replied, "but the results, they don't make sense. The ship's core is generating energy beyond our understanding, and the weapon systems, it's like they're ready to fire, but they're dormant." Vexor leaned over the console. The data flowing in was jumbled and incomplete. There was no way the Zarth Empire could have built something like this, even with their most advanced technology, and yet here it was drifting in the void of space, waiting for something. He looked at the screen again, his thoughts racing. "It's almost like it's waiting for a signal, like it's anticipating something." Zura frowned. "But what? Who would it be waiting for?" Before Vexor could answer, a flash of light lit up the room. The warship's energy surge had spiked, sending shock waves through space. The alien ships around SOS trembled, and a low rumble echoed from the warship itself. For a moment, the entire fleet felt the power of the ship, and every crew member could sense the danger lurking beneath the surface. The sudden surge of energy was followed by a strange, almost haunting sound, a deep mechanical pulse that resonated through the fleet's communication systems. It was a message, but not in any language the Zarth Empire could understand. "What was that, Captain?" Zura asked, her voice filled with tension. Vexor remained silent for a moment, his mind racing. The warship had just made its presence known in a way that was impossible to ignore. The message, whatever it was, wasn't meant for the Zarth Empire. It was something else, something they couldn't comprehend. "We need to be careful," Vexor finally said, his voice low and serious. "This ship is more than just a weapon. It's a relic from an era we don't understand, and now it's waking up. Whatever happens next, we need to be ready." Zura nodded, her expression grim. "But what if this is a trap? What if the humans who built this ship are still out there watching us?" Vex's eyes narrowed. "We can't make assumptions, but I'll tell you one thing. We are not the only ones who have noticed this ship. The moment it powered up, the energy signals would have reached other systems. We're not alone in this galaxy." As the crew continued to monitor the ship, Vexor couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything they had stumbled upon, something far beyond their understanding. And now they would have to face the consequences of their curiosity. The warship continued to glow faintly, its systems now fully activated. It was as though it was waiting for something, waiting for the right moment to reveal its true purpose. And as the alien fleet lingered in the void, Commander Vexor realized they were no longer in control of this situation. The warship had awakened, and its secrets were waiting to be uncovered. But at what cost? A deadly power. The tension in the air grew heavier as the mysterious warship continued to pulse with strange energy. The alien fleet, with its superior technology and weapons, now found itself staring at a ship that could not only match their power, but potentially surpass it. Commander Vexor stood in silence, watching the glowing ship on the screen, his mind racing with questions. "What are we dealing with here?" Vexor muttered, mostly to himself. His thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Captain Zara, who had been monitoring the situation closely. "Commander, I've never seen anything like this before," she said, her voice filled with both awe and concern. The ship's energy readings are unlike anything we've encountered. The power it's generating, it's like it's harnessing the very core of a star. The weapon systems, if they were ever fully activated, would have the potential to destroy entire fleets in an instant. Vex's heart skipped a beat. The Zarth Empire was powerful, but even they had never seen a weapon like this. He knew they had to tread carefully. Can we tell if it's fully activated? Vexer asked, his voice steady despite the rising tension. Zira hesitated. It's difficult to say. The ship's weapon systems are locked in a dormant state, but they're still generating power. If it comes to life, if it decides to fire, there's no telling what damage it could do. Vexer thought for a moment, his eyes flickering back to the warship on the screen. The ship was old, but its power was undeniable. It had been floating in space for who knew how long, and now it was awakening. He couldn't afford to underestimate it. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with, Vexer said. Prepare a deep scan of the ship's core. Find out what's powering it. As Zero worked on the scan, Vexer turned to his crew. Stay sharp. This ship may seem abandoned, but I have a feeling it's anything but that. We can't afford to be caught off guard. The deep scan took several minutes, and during that time, the eerie hum of the warship only grew louder. It was almost as if the ship itself was calling out into the void. And then, just as the tension seemed unbearable, the results of the scan appeared on the screen. The crew collectively gasped. The core of the ship wasn't just a power source, it was a massive energy generator designed to draw in and store energy from entire star systems. It was a technological marvel, built with precision and knowledge that far exceeded anything the Zarth Empire had ever seen. This isn't just a ship, Zara said, her voice trembling. This is a weapon built to destroy entire civilizations. Vex's mind raced as he processed the information. The ship's core was not only capable of storing immense amounts of energy, but could also harness and redirect that power with devastating force. The weapons on this warship were unlike anything in the known universe. We've made a grave mistake, Vexer said, his voice heavy with realization. We've underestimated this ship. If it chooses to fight, there's no way our fleet can stand against it. Zura's eyes widened as she looked back at the warship on the screen. What if it's not waiting for us? What if it's waiting for something else, someone else? Vexer frowned. That was a question he hadn't considered. What if this ship wasn't meant for the Zarth Empire? What if it was meant for something or someone else entirely? The idea sent a chill down his spine. This warship was more than just a relic. It was an ancient weapon, and it was waiting for something. He turned back to the control room, his expression hardening. I don't care what it's waiting for. We need to neutralize it now. If it's capable of what I think it is, we can't afford to let it remain out there uncontrolled. Zura nodded, already preparing the fleet's weapon systems. But as she did, Vex's thoughts kept returning to the mysterious ship's dormant weapons. It was clear that the ship had been left for a reason. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a message, a warning from a time long past. Suddenly, the ship's hum reached a crescendo. The entire fleet felt the vibrations through their ships. It was as though the warship was waking up for the final time. The energy readings were reaching critical levels, and the Zarf ships were caught in its gravitational pull. Vex's voice came out low but firm. Prepare for battle. We cannot let it fire. The alien fleet braced for impact. As the warship's weapons came online, a series of bright, blinding lights erupted from its surface, and the power generated by the ship began to focus. The Zarf fleet was about to face something that could potentially erase them from existence. Vexer watched in awe and horror as the warship prepared to unleash its power. It was no longer just a relic. It was a living, breathing weapon, and it was about to show the full extent of its deadly capabilities. The mistake. Part 4. The mistake. The atmosphere on Serapos was charged with tension as the Zarth fleet faced the now fully powered human warship. Commander Vexer stood in front of the control room's main screen, watching as the warship's weapon systems hung to life. The ship was alive with energy, its core glowing brighter with each passing moment. The crew on board the flagship could feel the power surging through the ship, sending waves of unease through their ranks. Vex's mind raced. This was a ship unlike anything the Zarth Empire had ever encountered. It was more advanced than their own technology, more powerful than any weapon they had ever dreamed of. The mistake had already been made. They had underestimated the human warship, and now It seemed that the ship was ready to retaliate. Commander, the warship is locking onto our fleet, Captain Zura's voice crackled over the comms. Her voice was tight with anxiety. It's targeting us. The weapons are aiming directly at our ships. Vexor gritted his teeth. We can't let it fire. Prepare to launch a counterattack. All ships, but be ready. This won't be easy. The alien fleet, brimming with powerful weapons and advanced technology, moved into position. Their ships began to glow with the energy of their weapons, prepared to fire at a moment's notice. But they were still caught off guard. The warship, which had been silent and dormant just moments before, now showed its true form. The moment it targeted the fleet, Vexor realized the gravity of the situation. The ship wasn't just a passive observer. It was an active threat ready to engage in battle. We can't match its power, Zyra said, her voice shaky with fear. Our weapons are nowhere near as powerful as its systems will be destroyed in an instant. Vexor didn't respond at first. The cold realization was sinking in. They had made a terrible mistake by approaching the warship without understanding what it could do, and now they would have to face the consequences. All ships prepare for evasive maneuvers, Vexor barked. Deploy shields and get ready to fight. We can't afford to waste any more time. Just as the order was given, the warship's weapons discharged a massive beam of pure energy erupted from the ship's core, shooting across the darkness of space like a streak of light. It struck the closest Zarna ship with a force that left no room for escape. The vessel disintegrated in an instant, its hull vaporized by the sheer power of the blast. The crew aboard the Xeros felt the shock wave reverberate through their ship as the destruction unfolded before their eyes. Status report, Vexor shouted, his voice filled with urgency. One of our ships is gone, Commander Zura reported. Quickly, the blast destroyed it completely. Where were no match for it. Vexor mind raced. The warship had destroyed their ship in an instant. The power it wielded was unimaginable. The Zarth Empire had conquered countless planets, defeated numerous species, but now they were facing a weapon so ancient, so powerful that they couldn't even begin to understand its true strength. They've made their move, Vexor said grimly. This is no longer just a scan or a warning. The humans have awakened their weapon, and we just walked right into it. Zara turned to him, her face pale with fear. Commander, we're going to lose. We can't win this fight. We're not equipped to face this kind of power. Vexor eyes narrowed. We need to hold our ground. Don't retreat. We can't show weakness. But as he said it, he knew in his heart that they were outmatched. The Zarf Empire had always relied on overwhelming power and advanced technology to crush their enemies, but the humans had something they hadn't expected, a weapon beyond their wildest dreams. Another blast of energy shot out from the warship, targeting another alien ship in the fleet. This time, it wasn't just one ship that was destroyed, it was an entire formation wiped out in the blink of an eye. The warship's power was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It wasn't just about strength, it was about precision, control, and sheer destructive force. Vexor felt the weight of the situation bear down on him. They had made a mistake, and now they would pay for it. The alien fleet was falling apart under the relentless assault from the warship. Ships were being destroyed, their remains floating aimlessly in Savas. The survivors were scattered, unsure of how to regroup against an enemy that was simply too powerful. Commander, we need to retreat, Zura said, her voice shaking. We can't keep going like this. It's over. Vexor hesitated, his eyes fixed on the screen. The warship loomed large, its energy beams cutting through space with deadly intent. The thought of retreating was foreign to him. The Zarf Empire did retreat. They conquered, they dominated. But the truth was undeniable. The warship was too much. The Zarna fleet had walked into a trap, and now they were paying the price. Finally, Vexor spoke. All ships fall back. We have no choice but to retreat. We've underestimated this enemy, and now we must survive to fight another day. The order was given, and the fleet began to pull back, trying to distance itself from the warship's devastating firepower. But as the alien ship scattered the warship, weapons didn't relent. The humans weren't finished yet, and the alien fleet was now facing the consequences of their careless actions. The human response, the Zarf fleet retreated into the blackness of space, their once proud ships damaged, scattered, and broken. Commander Vexor stood at the helm of Serapos, staring at the immense warship that had forced them to. His mind was filled with disbelief. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned the tables on the most powerful fleet in the galaxy with a single ancient warship. And now, as the fleet regrouped, Vexor couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. We've underestimated them, Vexor muttered under his breath, his eyes scanning the stars. His fleet had been caught off guard by a ship they had no right to underestimate. He couldn't deny it any longer. The humans were more dangerous than anyone had ever realized. Commander, we've received an incoming transmission. Captain Zura said, her voice tense. She looked at Vexor, the concern clear on her face. It's from the human warship. Vex's eyes narrowed. Put it on screen. The image flickered to life, revealing a cold, authoritative voice coming from the ship's communication system. It wasn't the warship's captain or crew. No, this transmission was from someone much more dangerous, someone who had been waiting for them. This is Commander Ryland of the Terran fleet, the voice said, the tone calm and unwavering. You've trespassed into our territory. You've attacked a vessel that was never meant to be disturbed. And now you will learn why the human race is not to be underestimated. Vex's mind raced as he processed the words Terran fleet. That was the human military. And this Commander Ryland, whoever he was making it clear that they had made a deadly mistake. The Zarth Empire had believed it was invincible, but the humans were proving them wrong. Vexor knew the humans were capable of great things, but the power they had just unleashed was beyond anything they could have predicted. Commander Ryland, Vexor reply, his voice steady but filled with tension. We did not intend to provoke you. We only sought to explore, to understand. But now we see that we have made a grave error. The human commander's face remained impassive. Your error was in thinking that you could just stumble into our territory, thinking you could conquer us like you've done with so many other species. You've awakened something ancient, something powerful, and now you will face the consequences of your actions. Vexor clenched his fists, frustration building within him. The power the humans had unleashed was overwhelming, but it was not just about the warship. It was about something deeper. The humans were capable of strategies and tactics that were far beyond what the Zarth Empire had expected. And now the consequences were clear. Commander, Vexor said, trying to regain control of the situation. We are not your enemies. If you show us mercy, we will leave your space immediately. We have no desire to cause further harm. There was a long pause before Commander Ryland spoke again, his voice still calm, but with a hint of steel. Mercy? You think you deserve mercy after what you've done? You attacked one of our ships, and you brought a fleet into our space. You've underestimated us. And now you will learn why that's a mistake you'll regret for the rest of your lives. Vex's mind was spinning. The humans were not like the species they had encountered before. They didn't fear the Zarth Empire. They were willing to fight to defend what was theirs, and they had the power to back up their words. Before Vexor could respond, Commander Ryland's voice rang out again, but this time there was no room for negotiation. You will leave now, or we will make sure that the Zarth Empire understands exactly what it means to face the full force of humanity. The transmission cut off abruptly, and Vexor stood in stunned silence, the word tongue in the air like a heavy fog that clouded his thoughts. He had expected to intimidate, to overpower, but now the tables had turned. The humans had delivered their message with clarity and precision. They were not to be trifled with. They were ready to fight, and they would do whatever it took to protect their territory. Zara looked at Vexor, her face filled with concern. What now, Commander? Vexor exhaled slowly, his mind still racing. We need to rethink our strategy. We've made an enemy of the humans, and I don't think they will show us mercy. Prepare the fleet for a defensive position. It's clear that we've underestimated their power, but we can't back down now. We need to figure out how to survive this. As the alien fleet regrouped, the tension between the two forces grew. The humans were preparing for something much more than a simple confrontation. This was no longer just about a mysterious warship. It was about survival. The Zarth Empire was facing an enemy that they hadn't anticipated, a species with the strength to fight back, the technology to outmatch them, and the will to defend their own at any cost. The human response had been clear. They would not tolerate invaders, and the Zarna fleet was now learning the hard way what it meant to face the full force of humanity. A counterattack. The Zarf fleet had barely finished regrouping when the human warship made its move, the entire fleet still shaken from the previous Attack braced for what was coming next. Commander Vexer stood in the control room of Serapos, his face set in grim determination. He knew the battle was far from over, and the humans weren't going to give up without a fight. We need to make a stand, Vexer said, his voice resolute. Prepare all ships for defensive maneuvers. We cannot allow them to push us any further. Captain Zur looked at the tactical displays, her face pale. Commander, the human warship is charging its weapons again, and it's not alone. Additional ships are entering the area. It looks like the Terran fleet is mobilizing for a full-scale assault. Vex's eyes narrowed. He had hoped they could find a way to de-escalate the situation, but it was clear now that the humans were preparing for an all-out war. The Zarf fleet was facing more than just a warship. It was facing an entire fleet of well-organized, highly advanced human ships. The odds were stacked against them. All ships prepare for combat, Vexer ordered, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Focus on the warship first. If we can take that down, we may be able to break their offensive. Zira nodded, quickly relaying the orders to the fleet. The Zarth ships began to align in formation, their weapon systems powering up, shields raised in preparation for the oncoming attack. Vexer knew that this would be the most difficult battle of his career. On the human side, the warship, along with the growing fleet, was closing in. Commander Raylan's voice crackled over the communication system, his tone filled with cold authority. You had your warning, Zarth. Now you will face the consequences of your actions. Vexer clenched his fists. They're coming in fast. Get ready, ready, everyone. The first volley of energy beams from the human warship struck the Zarna fleet with terrifying accuracy. A massive beam tore through one of the alien ships, causing it to explode in a brilliant flash of light. The shockwaves sent ripples through the remaining fleet, and chaos ensued as the Zarth ships scattered, trying to avoid the onslaught. Shields at 40%. Zara shouted, her voice tense with alarm. We're taking heavy fire, Commander. We can't keep this up much longer. Vexer mind raced. The human warship's weapons were far more powerful than they had anticipated. The Zarf fleet was already on the defensive, and it seemed like the humans were relentless in their assault. Yet Vexer knew they couldn't give up. They had to strike back, or it would be completely wiped out. Focus fire on their fly ship, Vexer commanded. Target their weak spots and fire everything we've got. We have to take it down. The Zarth ships fired in unison, their energy beams shooting towards the human warship. The beams hit the outer defenses, but the warship shields absorbed most of the damage. The humans had clearly prepared for this moment, and their ship was built to withstand even the most powerful attacks. Commander, their shields are holding. Zyra reported, frustration creeping into her voice. We can't break through their defenses. Are too strong. Vexer clenched his teeth. The human warship's power was beyond anything the Zarth fleet could match. He had thought their firepower would be enough to overwhelm it, but now it seemed like they were trapped in a battle they couldn't win. Recalibrate weapons. We need to exploit their weak points, Vexer ordered. Find a way to pierce those shields. But even as they tried, the human fleet showed no signs of slowing down. Another volley of energy beams ripped through the Zarf lines, striking ships with precision and force. Several more ships were lost in quick succession, leaving the remaining fleet reeling. Commander, they're breaking through our defenses, Zyra shouted, her eyes wide with fear. We can't keep up with their firepower. Vexer's heart sank as he watched his fleet crumble under the human assault. They were outmatched, outgunned, and out of options. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were pushing the Zarna fleet to the brink of destruction. And then, just as Vexer was about to issue the order for a full retreat, something unexpected happened. The human warship suddenly shifted its course. It pulled away from the front lines, and the rest of the fleet followed suit, retreating into the depths of space. The Zarna ships were left stunned, unsure of what had just happened. Why are they retreating? Vexer muttered under his breath, still recovering from the shock of the battle. Did we win? Zur shook her head, her eyes filled with confusion. No, Commander, they're regrouping. It looks like they're preparing for something bigger. Vexer stood silently, trying to process the sudden shift in the battle. The humans hadn't just pushed the Zarth fleet back. They had forced them into a corner. The fact that the human warship had retreated was a message in itself. The Terran fleet wasn't finished, in fact. It seemed like they were just getting started. The Zarth Empire had no choice but to regroup and recover. But even as they did, Vexor knew one thing: the humans had proven that they were not a species to be trifled with, and now the Zarth Empire had learned this lesson the hard way, the bitter realization. The Zarth fleet remained in formation, battered and bruised from the previous battle. The dust of war hung heavy in the cold vacuum of space, the remnants of destroyed ships drifting silently as a painful reminder of what had just transpired. Commander Vexor stood at the control room of Serapos, his eyes fixed on the view ahead where the human fleet had retreated into the dark unknown of space. The battle had ended, but the war had only just begun. The humans had shown them what they were capable of, and the Arnith Empire now stood at a crossroads. The sense of defeat hung over the fleet like a dark cloud. Commander, we've received another transmission, Captain Zira said quietly, her voice almost apologetic, as if she didn't want to disturb Vexor in his moment of reflection. Vexor didn't respond at first. His mind was still racing, trying to understand the full extent of what had happened. The Zarth Empire had been unstoppable for centuries, yet the humans, a relatively young species by their standards, had just put them in their place. Put it through, Vexor finally said, his voice steady but tinged with frustration. The screen flickered to life once more, and this time it was not the cold, calculated voice of Commander Rayland. Instead, a human officer stood on the other side, a woman with short, dark hair and a fierce, unwavering gaze. She was dressed in the uniform of the Terran fleet, and her demeanor was one of authority and confidence. Commander Vexor, she said, her voice calm but filled with an undeniable force. This is Admiral Catherine Rai. You've learned a very important lesson today, one that I hope you'll never forget. Vexor clenched his fists. What do you want? Admiral Riley's eyes were hard, but there was something in her expression that Vexor couldn't quite place. Was it pity, or perhaps something dark? You attacked a warship that had been dormant for centuries, she said, her voice filled with controlled anger. You underestimated us. You thought you could waltz into our territory, take what you wanted, and leave without consequences. But the humans you've come to know are not the same as the ones you've read about in your history books. We've built this fleet from nothing, from the ashes of wars and the lessons of our past, and now you're learning that lesson the hard way. Vexor didn't respond. He was finding it difficult to comprehend what was happening. They had underestimated the humans. There was no denying that, but now it was becoming clear that their mistake went far beyond just one warship. The humans had proven that they were not only capable of defending themselves, but they had the means to dominate, and the Zarth Empire had unwittingly walked into a hornet's nest. Admiral Riley's gaze softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. I'm giving you a choice, Commander. Leave our space, disappear. You won't hear from us again, and you can go back to your empire and lick your wounds, or we can make this personal. We can show the Zarth Empire just how far we go to protect our people, our territory, and our future. Vexor felt a chill run down his spine. The human fleet had made it clear that they weren't just defending their space. They were prepared to take the fight to the Zarth Empire, no matter the cost. For the first time, Vexor felt the weight of what he had started. The Zarth Empire had never faced a species so determined to fight back, so prepared for conflict. You've underestimated us once, Commander Ryle continued, her voice laced with both warning and resolve. I don't suggest you make the same mistake twice. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Vexor standing in stunned silence. The humans weren't just defending their territory. They were prepared for war, and the Zarth Empire had no choice but to take them seriously. Now we've made a grave mistake, Vexor muttered, his voice low but filled with bitter realization. Humans aren't just a threat, they're a force to be reckoned with. Zira, standing nearby, finally spoke. What now, Commander? Do we retreat? Do we fall back to our borders? Vexor shook his head. No, the Zarth Empire doesn't retreat. We never have. But we also can't be blind to the reality of the situation. We've made an enemy of the humans, and they're more powerful than we ever imagined. We need to regroup. We need to plan our next move carefully. But above all else, we need to understand one thing: they will not be easy to defeat. He turned to face the screen once more, his eyes narrowing as he looked into the darkness of space. The human fleet might have retreated for now, But the war was far from over, and Vexor knew that whatever came next, it would not be a fight the Zarth Empire could win with brute force alone the humans had shown. Then their true power, the Zarth Empire had been forced to face the truth. There were other species in the galaxy species. They could no longer underestimate the humans had made their intentions clear, and now the Zarth Empire had no choice but to prepare for the next inevitable conflict. It was no longer about conquest. It was about survival.